The young woman in the red apron knelt beside the elderly man, gently placing a warm bread roll into his trembling hands. She never asked where he came from or why his eyes looked so weary. Every morning, without fail, she left him a meal. No questions, no conditions. But on the 11th day, everything changed. 4 military SUVs rolled up in formation. A uniformed officer stepped out holding a sealed letter. The bakery went silent. When the woman walked out, everyone inside stood still. Welcome to Snack Attack TV, where tales of compassion and quiet heroism come to life. Today we uncover the truth behind an ordinary act of kindness on a dusty corner of Santa Isabel, New Mexico. Each day began with the comforting aroma wafting from Rosie's Bakery, a small shop tucked between a pawn shop and a shuttered gas station. The air smelled of melted butter, vanilla, and fresh bread dough. Marisol Rivera, 35, had never left Santa Isabel for more than a weekend. Long before sunrise, she was already in the kitchen, rolling dough, shaping bagels, baking honey-sweet muffins, and preparing cheddar rolls that kept locals coming back. She didn't seek attention. She remembered birthdays others forgot, knew which customers liked extra sugar in their coffee, and recognized when someone needed silence more than small talk. And she was the only one who noticed the old man. Silver-haired, hidden beneath a worn cap, his coat threadbare and dusty, he sat silently near the recycling bins at exactly 6:10 a.m. each day. He never asked for anything, just sat, shoulders hunched, watchful eyes alert, as if he hadn't let his guard down in years. At first, Marisol assumed he was waiting for someone, but after weeks of seeing him, always alone, she understood. He wasn't waiting. He was surviving. One frosty Tuesday morning, she stepped outside holding a brown paper bag. Inside, a leftover ham sandwich, a banana muffin, and a hot coffee with a snug lid. Without a word, she placed it on the bench next to him. "Guess the kitchen overdid it today," she mumbled to herself. He looked at the bag, then at her. No pleading, no rush. Just a cautious gaze, as if unsure whether this was kindness or a trick. Then a nod, slightly deeper than usual. The next day he returned. So did the bag. And just like that, an unspoken ritual was born. No greetings, no names, just a quiet exchange between two strangers. She never told anyone. Maybe it was something her father once said about war and children scraping crumbs beneath soldiers' boots. Or maybe it was her own past, being a hungry child in a quiet house after cancer took her mother. Or maybe it was simple. He was hungry, and she knew how to bake. Soon others noticed. "He's back again," someone muttered near the coffee counter. Not loud enough to confront, but loud enough to jab. "Rosie's running a charity now?" a young coworker joked. "Or are we just giving away pastries to anyone who skips shaving for a month?" Marisol didn't respond. She just kept slicing bread, calm and steady. A few days later, Mr. Raoul, a retired teacher, glanced outside and shook his head. "Back in my day, people like that knew better than to loiter around decent businesses. No one handed out freebies just for looking pitiful." Marisol smiled politely. Her hands, still dusted in flour, didn't stop moving. Only Rosa, the elderly lottery vendor 2 blocks down, said something different. As she picked up her drip coffee, she leaned in. "You've got your mama's heart, you know that?" Marisol paused. Rosa had known her mother, the woman who made soup from scraps and gave it away during cold winters. She couldn't clearly remember her mother's face anymore, but she remembered those hands. Always warm, always moving, always smelling of parsley and dish soap. That same morning, the man didn't show. Still, she packed the bag, placed it on the bench at 6:10, watched the napkin flutter away in the wind like a little flag with no home. The next day and the next, still no sign of him. On the 4th day, Gustavo, the bakery owner, called her into his office. The room smelled like ink and old coffee. "Marisol," he began, "I know your heart's in the right place, But customers are starting to talk. That man makes people uncomfortable. She tightened her apron. He's never come inside. He's never asked for anything. But you give him something every day, Gustavo said. This isn't a soup kitchen. She stayed quiet, not because she had no words, but because if she spoke, she might cry. I pay for it myself, she finally whispered. It's leftovers. It doesn't come out of inventory. Gustavo sighed. I'm not telling you to stop. Just be subtle. Leave it out back. Marisol nodded. That night, she emptied her tip jar. Just enough for a loaf of bread, a coffee, and a muffin per day. She slipped a few bills into an envelope. Covered, 5 days' breakfast. To her, kindness didn't need permission. Only intention. A week passed. The bench remained empty. Still, she packed the bag at 6:10. Still, she waited. On the 10th day, Rosa messaged her a link to a Facebook post. A photo of the bakery, the bench, and the untouched bag. The caption? Rosie's Bakery, now feeding imaginary customers. The comments were cruel. Marketing stunt? Feeding strays? Some people really need a reality check. Marisol locked her phone. That night, in her small apartment above the bakery, she opened her mother's silver tin box. Inside was a worn, leather-bound journal. She flipped to a page she knew by heart. Gave half my ration to a little boy crying outside the fence. Some said he was a trap, but his eyes, they reminded me of myself the day my father didn't come home. No one grows poorer by sharing bread, but those who forget to share, no matter how full their tables, stay hungry in ways they'll never understand. Marisol ran her fingers across the words. She didn't know the man's name, where he'd gone, if he'd returned, but she didn't need to. On the 11th morning, the sky was gray and damp. While wiping the pastry case, she heard the gravel crunch outside. 4 matte black military SUVs pulled up. Each vehicle door opened in unison. Soldiers stepped out, silent, crisp, composed. From the lead SUV emerged a tall man in a decorated dress uniform. He walked to the door. The bell above chimed. Is there a Marisol Rivera here? He asked. She raised a hand. Yes. I'm Lieutenant Colonel David Santos, U.S. Army Special Forces, he said. I'm here because of a promise. From his coat, he pulled a thick, sealed envelope. This letter is from Ignacio Torres, the man you gave breakfast to every morning. Marisol's breath caught. He was the father of Sergeant Mateo Torres, one of my best men. Mateo died in action 2 months ago. Afterward, Ignacio disappeared. The room was silent. He carried guilt few could understand, the colonel said. But 3 months ago, he wrote to me. Not about his grief, about you. He held up the envelope. In his final letter, written days before he died of heart failure, he asked us to find the woman in the red apron. Marisol's eyes filled. The colonel continued. You didn't ask questions. You didn't offer pity. You gave him food like he mattered. He said, she made me feel like a person again, like I was more than my sadness. The colonel stepped back, came to attention, saluted. Every soldier outside followed, standing tall in the morning sun. Marisol's tears were silent. She hadn't fought in a war. She'd simply offered breakfast. But that breakfast found its way to a battlefield, wrapped itself around a soldier's memory, became a promise kept. Within days, the photo of soldiers saluting a baker in Santa Isabel went viral. The local paper headlined it, "The Morning Ritual That Helped a Father Heal." Marisol didn't change. Still opened at 5:30, still wore the red apron. Still baked. But the people changed. A mother left a note. My brother's a Marine. Thank you for remembering soldiers leave families behind. An older man dropped a challenge coin near the register. Vietnam 74. First time I've believed in people again. People came not just to buy, but to share patches, medals, stories. Then, one morning, a letter arrived in a child's handwriting. Dear Miss Marisol, I'm Lucia, Ignacio's granddaughter. Grandma said he always talked about you. Said you gave him food when no one else saw him. We found a box under his bed. It had every napkin you folded, every note you wrote. He never threw them away. Thank you for being kind when he needed it most. Love, Lucia. Marisol framed the letter, hung it behind the counter, not where customers could see, just where she could. A month later, Gustavo quietly hung a wooden sign below the bakery's logo. Bread for those who need it. No questions, no shame. One autumn morning, a teenage girl lingered outside. My dad's deployed, she whispered. Mom cries a lot. I just wondered if you still had any bread. Marisol smiled. We've always got bread, and coffee, and someone to talk to. She placed a warm roll on the table, then walked away. Later, behind the counter, she found another challenge coin near the flour bin. This one was heavier. Its inscription, Semper Fidelis, never forgotten. She slipped it into her pocket. Didn't ask who left it. Didn't need to. Outside, the sky glowed amber. Inside, ovens hummed. A promise lived on, not in words, but in bread. In our darkest moments, kindness still finds a way, often in the quietest corners. Not every hero wants a headline. Some just want to make sure someone eats today. And sometimes that's enough to change a life. Subscribe to Snack Stories, where justice is honored, kindness is remembered, and no act of quiet heroism is ever lost.